I know what time it is now. I know what time it is now. It's showtime.
What is up, guys? This is Weezak7 of Weezak Games, and this is part 2 of my character walkthrough for the custom sheet that I made for D&D 3.5. In this part, we're going to talk about magic and familiars. So, the first thing you're going to want to do for magic, is you're going to want to write down all the spells you know. I'm not a wizard, which is what we're making here, a half-orc wizard. Begins play knowing all the level 0 spells and 2 level 1 spells. I'm not going to write down all the level 0 spells in here because that would be way too time consuming. Instead, I'm just going to copy down the stats for 2 level 1 spells which will show how all of these different things work and should give you a pretty good idea of it. So first of all, we're going to start with Burning Hands, so we will put that down right here at Burning Hands, level 1. It is an evocation spell. So we type that in school, evocation. Does it allow a save? It allows reflex save for half, so reflex for half. There is no secondary save, like Baleful Polymorph, which allows a fortitude save to resist the effect, and then a will save. If you fail the fort save, then a will save to retain your sentience. It does allow spell resistance, so we type a 1 in there, and it becomes yes. The distance is 15 feet. So 15 feet. The targets are, any creatures. So we'll just put creatures because there's no limit. The area is a 15 per level foot with a maximum of 15. Cone. The duration is instant. The casting time is 1. Standard action. There is no material cost, 0. The damage deals 1d4 per level, maximum 5d4, so 1 per level of d4 to a maximum of 5. Plus 0, no bonus damage, deals 1d4 per level fire damage to creatures in area. Player's Handbook, page 207. Okay. Now basically what I've done here is, like I said, the name is pretty self-explanatory. The level is the level of the spell. The school is the school of the spell. Do not put in sub-schools here because the system, the sheet won't recognize that. The primary save, the type of save, in this case reflex, what its effect is, half, negates, partial, whatever. The secondary save, which some spells have, some don't. A binary cell here for 1, you can type in 1 or 0 for whether it allows or does not allow spell resistance. The range, you can either type in close, medium, or far, close, medium, or long, as it's described in Player's Handbook, in which case the sheet will fill that out for you, or you can type in a specific number. For instance, close is 25 feet plus 5 feet for every 2 level. So if you type in close here, when you go to use the spell, or enter it in here, its range will fill in with how many feet you can cast for your level. This is the units. The targets is how many targets per level. So for instance, if it was you affect 1 creature per level, you would put in 1, 1. If it was 1 creature for every 2 levels, you would put here. If it was 2 creatures per level, you do that. The type, and then the maximum number of creatures that can be affected. The area, once again, the number of units divided by how many levels. So if it was a 10-foot cube per level, you'd put 10 per level, and then you'd have no maximum. However, because this one has a maximum of 15, we put 15 feet per level, which means that it's always going to say at least 15, even at level 1. However, the max is 15 feet, so it'll never go beyond that. And then it makes the shape of a cone. Duration, this is how many of units, and this is the units. If the duration is dependent upon your level, then you will type in level here, as you'll see with mage armor. Or it's a set number. And then units, you'll type in either how many rounds, hours, minutes, or whatever are here, or you just type in instant if it's an instantaneous thing. These are both binaries where you can type in a 1. This is if it's permanent, and this is if concentration will extend it. The casting time of how many and what kind of action, make sure you type in standard action as opposed to just standard or just move or just free or whatever. Make sure you type in action afterwards, and I'll explain why in a little bit. The damage, it's pretty much the same thing. The number divided by how many levels worth of damage. So if it's in this case, and then what type of die it does, and then the max. So in this case, since it does 1 d4 per level, we have 1 divided by 1 type of d4 to a maximum of d5. This section here is for if it does any extra damage. For instance, the cure moderate wounds would do 2 per d6, so that would be like 2 per level of d6 to a maximum of 2, because it does just 2d6, and then it heals plus 1 per level, so 1 per level to a maximum of, I believe, 10. And that's what this stuff is. This is for any extras that are not the dice. And this is for any additional damage that just isn't reflected in your level. Like, for instance, if you had a spell that did 2d6 damage per level plus 5, and just always did 5, you could do that here. Or if you have bonus damage to a certain type of, for a certain damage type for some reason. Maybe for some reason your mage, your wizard casts fire spells and does an extra 3 fire damage every time he casts one. For instance, something like that. Whoops. Okay, we'll go home. And now we're going to type in, for the next one, we're going to type in mage armor. Level 1. I'm not sure if that's abjuration. Let's find out. Let's see. So it is conjuration. Conjuration. It allows a reflex save of will. Negates, but because it's harmless, when a spell is harmless, I usually type in harmless on this part. It's not necessary that you do so for the sheet. I just like to do it so that you can see it. It does not allow spell resistance. It has a range of touched, so that's 0 feet. Target is, I believe, 1 creature. Yep. So 1 creature per level. Creature to a maximum of 1. The area, there is no area, so we're ignoring this. The duration is, how many? Is 1 hour per level, so we type in level, hours. Casting time is 1. Standard action. Material cost of 0. Does no damage or healing. And plus 4 armor bonus to AC. And then the player's handbook, which I'm not going to look at the page right now. So, once you have all your spells typed in, you're going to want to go over to the magic section here. As I mentioned earlier, I've listed how many spells I've already entered in how many spells this character has. With the way the rest of all this stuff works here, he is not a spontaneous caster, so we'll either leave it blank or type in 0. He's not a cleric, so we don't enter any domains. He is not if it's a specialized wizard, you type in the focus here. Excuse me. And I think we will do that. We'll do conjuration, and then for the prohibited schools, we'll do necromancy and abjuration, because why not? So now you can see that there's extra mana down here if you use the mana system, and this is because when you specialize in a school, it allows you to prepare 1 extra spell per level in that school. Any DC bonuses to the spells would be listed here. For instance, if I had the spell focus feat, I could mark down my stuff for meta magic rods and my sudden feats, but because I'm not doing any of that right now, I don't need to worry about it. You have so we're going to start by typing in we're gonna prepare a burning hands, and a mage armor. And as you can see, everything fills in here. It's a little difficult to read some of it, but you can see it fills in the save. It fills in the DC already, which is 10 plus the spell level, so 11 plus my intelligence modifier of 2. It fills in spell resistance, it fills in the feat, it fills in all the stuff for you. As you can see, the duration here, it's listed as 1 hour for mage armor, whereas if I were level 2, for instance, it would show 2 hours. It's the damage and healing is 1 hour, or is 1d4, and basically it'll just fill in everything right up there for you. And then we mark down how many we've prepared for the day. Again, if you use the mana system, as you can see, it will automatically remove that mana. If not, you'll just have to keep track of it. So we'll say we've prepared 1 of each. Because this is conjuration, however, we are going to take this column right here and mark a 1, because this is one of my bonus spells. So, and that is, so that way you can see that this thing no longer marks it from the mana. Apparently, this formula is still not quite right. As you can see, I've updated it, and it is now working properly. I just had to correct a name reference. Anyway, so as I said, you can see that now that this is a bonus spell, it subtracts from the bonus mana rather than the normal mana, whereas if I delete that, it goes back to normal. In the event of you not using the mana system, using the spells per day, you'll just have to keep track of it on your own. This is how many you have prepared for the day, and this is how many you've cast. If you are a spontaneous caster, you will ignore this column, and if you are not, this column simply is there for your own reference. I currently don't have anything to support applying feats to these spells. Well, I do in the more complex one, but like I said, that one is not working properly. So I would suggest that if you regularly apply a feat to something, to just mark it down as a separate entry in here. So next thing we're gonna touch on the familiar briefly, and then that will be the end of it. So we'll start with there's the familiar's name, and you can write all that stuff in there. Classes with familiars, there are one class. Oh, my numlock was turned off. One class with familiars, and for a total level of 1. We will make a cat familiar. And as you can see, now that I've typed that in, most of these things have already filled in. All of its base stats are filled in, all of its saves, its claw attack, what abilities it knows because of by virtue of what level you are, and that will increase as you increase in level. Special attacks and qualities, you can mark those down here if it has special attacks. I believe the cat has weapon finesse, so we'll mark that down. You can check that here. It does not fill in the feats automatically, it does not fill in the skills automatically, so you will have to take care of those things on your own. It automatically fills in the hit points, which are always half of the master's. And basically, other than the skills, the feats, and the special attacks, everything is pretty much already filled in just by typing in what the familiar is. And you will find those things right in the monster manual for that familiar. I have all of the familiars that are in the standard player's handbook, as well as a dog that I found from a supplement. You can see the hit dice and the bonus the master has, which is also reflected over here. For instance, if we go to move silently, you will see that there is a +5, +2 for his stat, and then the +3 is included right in there. So the familiar is really easy. That you just basically do that and then type in the name and whatever. You can mark these if the familiar is augmented or enhanced by the augment and enhance familiar spells that are found in Complete Arcane and Complete Warrior, although I forgot which is found where. And otherwise, that's basically it. So that pretty much wraps this up here. Thank you for watching. Hopefully this has been informative for you guys. I'm going to go over the last few pages very briefly and talk a little bit about the charts in my final video. But this is the core stuff, and if you have any questions, feel free to get a hold of me and let me know. Thanks, and I'll see you next time.